super high-powered triple tax advantage. That's right, not one, not two, but yes, 3 times the tax advantage account. That's hard for me to even count to, like 1 or 2.
Where did you learn to count?
Oh, good. You're still here, even after that more than abysmal intro. I appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike. Here on this channel, I like to take complex personal finance questions and topics and try to make them a little bit easier for you. Just try to drum up as much information that gives something better for you to make better decisions along your personal finance journey. Some of these videos may go long and they may have some dry content, but luckily my face will be there to ensure that you induce vomiting. That's a terrible joke.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyway, you're here to talk about HSAs, so let's get into it. What is an HSA? How does it affect you? What can you do with it? All those good things. Let's talk about it. So first off, HSA. That's a health savings account. Bet you didn't see that one coming, right? HSA, health savings account. Spectacular, mind-blowing. I know, crazy. All right, quit goofing around. Let's get down to business. What is an HSA and how does it work? Basically, an HSA is a savings account that allows you to put pre-tax money in, grow that money in the stock market, and then utilize that money for health expenditures, meaning medical purposes. These accounts allow you to tax leverage your money in and around your healthcare expenses, which could be anything from like prescription drugs or x-rays or anything of the sort that would have to deal with a doctor, co-pays, so on and so forth. Acupuncture, I believe, is covered in there, and therapy is recovered in there as far as actual, talking to a therapist type stuff. Those things usually are qualified. Of course, you're gonna, I'm just a guy on a YouTube video. You're gonna need to make sure you verify that what it is that you're thinking is a qualified purchase or expense is a qualified expense, or so just make sure that happens before you just say, well, that guy on a YouTube video, blah, blah, blah. Disclaimer, I don't know all of them off the top of my head. Obviously, the range is very wide and broad, but anywho, let's move on from all of that. The HSA savings account lets you use pre-tax money, grow that money tax-free, and then be able to use that money for medical expenses tax-free. In order to be eligible for an HSA, you're going to need to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. This account can be super powerful in order to actually reduce your tax burden for the tax year, but then also be able to utilize that money at any time for like prescriptions. If you have a prescription that you have a recurrence for, and then, stuff like eyewear, eyeglasses, that sort of stuff, any of that sort of thing that could be, contacts. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, any of those type of purchases and things can be utilized through the health savings account, which then would allow you to use pre-tax money, so you're not having to pay taxes on it, and then also be able to utilize it tax-free. That's just a powerful way to make sure that you're maximizing your dollars in and out from your personal finance journey. Okay, I know I've said this about 7 times, but I'm going to do it again because I'm actually in the part of the script in which I go through a list of these different things. But anyway, you're using pre-tax money to grow tax-free inside of the stock market or investments, and then cash out or utilize those against medical purposes and get those purchases paid for tax-free. A lot of those different things. I'm going to read a list here of the qualified medical purposes: co-pays, prescriptions, dental care, contacts and eyeglasses, bandages, x-rays, and the list goes on and on. Again, not sure exactly on I'm not going to be able to be exhaustive on every single thing. And I'm also not going to say that is for sure all qualified. Need to make sure that you talk to a CPA / make sure that your provider of your HSA is informing you on whether or not these things are qualified or not. You will need to make sure that you keep all receipts and all transactions so that when the IRS comes knocking and says, hey, we're going to audit you, you're like, hey, here are this is what this was, this is what that was, and they can determine whether or not those qualified purchases are applicable underneath the law. But anywho, this is just trying to give you the drum up of what is an HSA, not necessarily the perfect rendition of like, this is what you can use. That sounds all freaking good. Fantastic. But I was always told if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So where do the pitfalls come in? All right, so here's some of the HSA pieces that might be a negative or a con side to actually utilizing this account in your personal finance journey. Okay, so number one, your money is going to be tied up until you are 65 years old. That is longer than the average 59 and a half for like a 401k or Roth IRA. 65 years old for an HSA until you can actually utilize that money for non-medical purposes if you don't want to incur a penalty. Okay. So basically you're tying your money up until you're 65, but it can grow that entire time. So there's a lot of time for you to be able to amass a big conglomeration until you're actually utilizing that in retirement a lot in order to, you know, keep yourself alive. So yeah. So you're now probably asking yourself, but what if I need that money now? You can absolutely go get your money, right? It's just in an account. You can move it and pull it out, but the IRS is going to tax you on it. Number one, anything that gets grown inside of it or utilized before you're 65 for non-medical purposes gets taxed. Number one. Then number two, if you're under 65, it's going to give you a 20% penalty. That is a large number. Make sure that if you're putting stuff into this account, you would want to keep it there until you're 65. So even like me, I'm not maxing it out. I'm just putting a little bit in there, hopefully to try and get it steamrolling to where it will grow exorbitantly high. And then, you know, I'll have a little bit of a cash pocket for when I have to use prescriptions and co-pays on a regular. Being a single guy, just, you know, not really needing to do too many co-pays or anything like that at the current venture. So therefore, it's just building or amassing wealth inside of that account very slowly. Now, a good part of this is that when you turn after 65, or when you're older than 65, then you'll be able to utilize that money for whatever you want. But if it's not a qualified medical purpose, then it will be taxed, right? It will be a taxable income event when you take a distribution from that account. Okay, so let's move into some other tidbits of the account. If you are a family unit, this account can be utilized for dependents, so that is a plus. Basically in the sense of like your kid's toe fungus needs a prescription, the HSA can be utilized for that. Remember, I'm not a qualified CPA or any of that sort of stuff. So like making sure that those purchases are actually qualified, you need to go like verify that, because I don't know, but I'm going to say this, if a kid has toe fungus and needs a prescription for it, I would hope that it's qualified, because I know I don't want to catch it.
Seems reasonable.
Next little tidbit. The account is yours, meaning that if you lose your job or get fired or whatever, this account was made with your information underneath your social security number. It is a savings account that is yours. So therefore it goes with you no matter where you go or where you end up or who employs you. You know, one of the greatest things about that is that your employer, being a procurer of this, can also make contributions on your account or on your behalf. And so personally, when I take a little quiz every single year when I'm filling out my benefits, they actually give me a $500 little bonus, which is absolutely fantastic. Love them for that. This does bring me into the last little tidbit, which is going to be the limit cap that happens every single year. This year in 2024, if you are single, you only get $4,150 that you can actually put away in there. If you are over the age of 55, you are allowed to have a $1,000 catch-up contribution, if so desired. Again, not maxing it out myself, but it will be nice to have a little bit of a pillow in case I need to do prescription drugs in the future or have multiple doctor's visits and that sort of stuff. But anywho, as a family unit in the year of 2024, you are allotted $8,300 a year at the current venture this year in 2024. So you can actually set aside $8,300 from your tax burden and put that in pre-tax. Of course, you're tying it up into medical expenses. So I would just justify that $8,300 for the year would actually be needed to happen for your family. That's kind of a big chunk of money to be putting away personally. So just think about it. You know, your personal finance journey has personal decisions. So, you know, do what's right for you. Okay, so with this account, how do we utilize the fund? What methods can we actually do to pull the money out and be able to utilize it for these expenses? So like I said, you can invest this in the stock market. So number one, you're going to need to make sure that your cash balance inside of the account is fluid and fluid and whatnot, but your provider should have different ways for you to access it, whether that would be like a debit card or checking system. If those things aren't usually available, the IRS does allow you to reimburse yourself from this tax account. Any kind of disbursement from this is going to be scrutinized. So you need to make sure that any receipts or any disbursement matches with total dollar, generation. Otherwise you are going to be or some of that money will then, that comes from the disbursement, will be put on your income tax. So like I said, if you do decide to utilize it, whether it's a debit card, a check, or whether you are actually pulling it out yourself to reimburse yourself for a medical expense, you need to make sure that any of those receipts and those distributions match up in total so that you don't incur more penalties, more tax. And then that brings me to, there is going to be an actual penalty. So anytime you pull out with a debit card or a check, or even reimburse yourself just from pulling money out that you use money elsewhere, you need to make sure that you have all of those receipts and all those disbursements matching up so that the IRS can plainly see that this total and that total accumulated and it makes sense. Otherwise, you will be taxed in your federal income tax on that money when you pull it out. Plus, if you are under the age of 65, you will also incur a 20% penalty if you are using it for something that is not a qualified medical expense. All of that word jumble is basically just to say, be very careful on what you're using the money for and make sure all your transactions mesh. Don't just use this as a regular savings account where you're swiping that debit card all over the place, because it would become very, very difficult when it comes tax time and you're seeing a large bill for a 20% penalty that you shouldn't have had in the first place. So just be careful along those lines and when you're utilizing this account. Okay, so the last little tidbit, let's say you're getting along in your years and we're getting up into later stages of life and you're deciding to go with Medicare for your health plan. In the process of doing that, you can no longer contribute to your HSA. So if anybody comes around in that time and has an HSA and you go and get Medicare and you're covered by Medicare, do not contribute to your HSA. I don't know the rules and penalties around that, but just know that you're not allowed to contribute to your HSA after you get Medicare. Now, the money can still be utilized. It doesn't go away. It's there. It can still be invested and grow. It can also be used for medical purposes, but just know that you can't contribute regularly to your HSA anymore after obtaining Medicare. All right, so let's do a little bit of a review on the HSA. This account is a health savings account that is coupled with usually a high deductible health plan. If you are allotted the acquisition of an HSA, then you will actually be able to use pre-tax money in order to grow your money tax-free in the stock market, and then utilize that money against qualified medical purposes or expenditures that you come across in your daily life, whether those be prescriptions or co-pays or dental appointments or contacts, eyeglasses, therapy, acupuncture, I don't know, whatever it is. Just go and verify that those different purchases are correct and you can actually do those before utilizing this. But with that being said, you are allowed to contribute to this every single year up to a limit. This year in 2024, you can move up into $41.50 if you are single, and if you are a family, $8,300. If you are over the age of 55 and filing single, then you get a catch-up contribution of $1,000. So congratulations on that. If you do decide to utilize the fund before the age of 65, you will be taxed on those and given a burden or a 20% penalty. After the age of 65, you can use it for whatever you want, but you are taxed at a federal income tax rate for those funds. And then once you sign up for Medicare, there's no more contribution to the HSA. And that's pretty much it. There's the HSA in a nutshell. I hope this was kind of quick. It feels like in this recording process that it's been kind of quick. I'm sure when I go to editing, it will not be that quick, but I appreciate you sticking around. Very kind of you. If you would leave a like or hit the sub button, that would be fantastic. Just on a little bit of a tidbit, if you're wondering how I'm utilizing an HSA, I do have an HSA. Like I said previously, my employer gives me a $500 bump when I take a little quiz. So that's a nice little bit of cash that I can just put toward medical expenses, which I'm just constantly growing. I have it stacked away inside of total market index funds. So it's just slowly growing with the market over time. I am not maxing it out. I am not trying to put a exorbitant amount of money in there unless I get a really fat raise, which Let's be honest, that's a fat chance. But anywho, that's how I'm utilizing it. If you want to do that, I am more than happy for you. But it is a personal finance decision. Just know that it's all tied around medical expenses. And so you're bundling or putting this money set away inside of this personal account to try and get tax advantages for your medical expenses. Anywho, I'm Mike. I appreciate your view. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next video.